Welcome to the divisional round episode of the Toronto Untitled Football Podcast. I'm Steve Artabello. I'm here with Anthony Harris and Theo Giordano. You can find us, you can find our website, torontoontilt.com. You can find us on Twitter at Toronto Untilt. The video of this podcast will be on YouTube, Toronto Untilt, and of course on all the streaming services, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, Bleaker, all the things. You can find us, like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, share. Quick note, as baseball season approaches, there will be a baseball podcast, but that's another thing. Straight into football. It's the divisional round. Wild card weekend was last week. And before we just jump into these divisional games, we'll just do a quick tally of the bets from last week before we really dig into the meat of what's going on this week. So, Tony was 1-1, so we'll have Tony kick it off. Tony?
It began with the loser with the Bills. I was pretty confident in that one. -6.5. They did not cover. Phil had a pretty good game, actually. He kept up. The Colts defense actually wasn't too bad. It was more about control. Colts had the ball for a while, and they had a lot of chances to actually win the game. There was a missed 33-yard kick by Rodrigo, and they had the first and goal there, and they got stopped on 4 downs, which was extremely disappointing. I lost the bet, and they lost the game, so I got the worst of both worlds. So that was tough. But then the Ravens made everything better. The Titans were very poorly coached, just running the ball. Derrick Henry on first down every time. They had the big lead, but they couldn't score any more points. And Lamar just showed he's Lamar. He's the MVP. That 39 run or the 48-yard run
That was electric.
Arguably the play of the year. Really, it was a phenomenal play, and they never looked back after that. So 1-1 in the super wild card round.
Theo, let's go through yours.
Yeah, so tough. It was a really tough handicap week in the wild card. We'll go through individually. I had the Bills -6.5 too. That one probably should have lost outright. Tony's right about that. It was a pretty conservative game script. You got a good field day, but it just, again, I thought there were some bad field goal decisions and some very conservative early down play calls by Indy that kind of kept that game closer than it, kept them behind. And I thought they should have maybe, won that game outright. But that was just an inflated line, and it was trying to ride the hot hand with the Bills, and it just didn't work at all. The Rams outright. So I had this in a teaser, which lost in a few ways, but if you took this one, but the 3.5 or the money line, was the best look of the weekend as far as the underdogs went, just based on the fact that the only reason Seattle was keeping favorite was because of some narratives on their quarterback position. And you look at Seattle's quarterback, and they're not even playing well right now. Russell Wilson.
No, he was trash.
Last 10 weeks of the season, just not very good.
Yeah.
The Rams played well defensively again and didn't need anything from the quarterback position, even with the early injury to Wolford. Like, Goff didn't really play well, and they still scored 30 points, 23 on offense, but still it was, they didn't need to do anything other than some Cam Akers runs. So lost that one in the teaser with another game I'll get to, but if you took that one outright, which I said if you're going to take it a day off because the line moved with the teasers off, that won every way if you took it with the Rams. That Washington team under, so I was very big on that team under, just based on the fact that I thought we'd get some injured Alex Smith or Heineke, who we haven't seen much of. Figured we'd get a better defensive game from Tampa. Right away, it looked like a problem with the way Tampa was, or with the way Heineke was throwing the ball.
Yeah, that was ridiculous for a guy who started on the practice squad. I would like to point that out.
And I think if Smith's in that game, I don't even think Washington gets 17 points, just based on the fact that he was forcing deep balls. There was guys running open too. Like, there's some issues with Tampa Bay's defense. They had some bad red zone luck. I think they dropped an interception in the red zone, but
there was also just some drops on offenses on Washington's offense that just was killing. Like, the practice squad quarterback wasn't the problem. Like, that's a weird thing to happen in a playoff game. You know what I mean?
I think Washington played very well. That was just kind of a look based on the fact that you had so much insecurity in that quarterback position. And, I was going to take
I loved it. Here's the thing. I loved it too. Like, when you were talking about it, I was supporting that heavily because it made the most sense. They didn't have a quarterback.
even at halftime, it was at 7 points. I'm like, this doesn't look good. Like the way the game was progressing, the way they were forcing the defense, like it was a tough.
We even talked about it. We talked about like the threat to that might be the Chase Young scoring a touchdown. You know what I mean? Because we really didn't think. Yeah, we just didn't think Tyler Heineke was good, or Heineke, whatever the hell his name is, however you pronounce it properly. We just did not figure that he was going to look that good.
Yeah, but credit to them for keeping that close at least. And the D-line for Washington, which everyone was talking about all week, was pretty neutralized.
I talked about too. Yeah.
Quickly on the Sunday games, the Baltimore game. Again, the only thing I was playing on was that Tennessee does not adjust, and they're going to run on the wall all day. That Baltimore play hit easily. If you got a 3.5 at 3, it was. If Tennessee comes out with a better coaching plan, I think they might win that game. They were too stubborn with the run. Tannehill was looking okay passing the ball early, and they just kind of went away from it and forced it Derrick Henry way too much, which is something that Arthur Smith, a good coach, just you can't do that in a playoff game against a defense like Baltimore.
For a coach that was willing to cut his dick off to get to the Super Bowl, he did not coach like it. That was the most ridiculous soundbite I've ever heard. Man. That was the most ridiculous soundbite I've ever heard in my life, by the way.
It was just a weekend of coward coaching. Like, we can get into with the next games, too. We'll breeze by this New Orleans game. I said the under early. Didn't end up taking it because we had some later injuries to Bears players. That it under hit it absolutely easy. So if you took that, good for you. That was the easiest way of the weekend. And then we're talking about coward coaches, Mike Tomlin.
Can we just talk about like the way that game started? The 28 points, like, could that have gone any better for the Browns? And could it have gone any worse for the Steelers? Seriously, was there something that could have happened that would have made that worse?
Probably my favorite opening quarter ever watching the game.
Watching that with friends, like, obviously it's COVID, so we're doing it like online. But just the laughter of all of us as this was happening, we couldn't believe it. We talked about this. The Browns didn't have their head coach and play caller. Like, they were dealing with as many issues as you could possibly deal with, and the Steelers completely imploded. Like, it was phenomenal. And then to see like all of the Browns dancing on their grave, all of that Corvette dance in the locker rooms, the side, all of that shit was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. And, Chase Claypool being salty and saying the Browns are going to get clapped this week. Are the Browns going to get clapped this week? Most likely. Was that still awesome?
Maybe.
Definitely.
I think they're we'll get into that.
Here's the thing.
As always.
Clapped. Will they get clapped? I don't think so, because the Chiefs don't tend to blow teams out. Like, the Browns will probably hang around. But, Theo, is there anything else you wanted to get to from the bets last week before we move on to this week?
No, it was no, I think it's everything.
All right, I just had to
go for it on the 4th and 1 in midfield in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that was kind of what we implied earlier. Like, again, you get to that position where you're down so much, and then you come back, your offense is rolling, and I don't know. I don't know how you make the decision there. I think it was like the two softest play calls. They do like this. There's this Twitter account that tracks based on how much it affects your chance to win and how soft the punting on 4th down is for teams.
Oh,
the top two of the weekend were that Tennessee one where they punted.
Yeah.
4th and 2 over midfield.
They were at like
2 on the 40. I want to say
it was
4th
like
and 2 on the 40 some odd yard line.
Yeah, at the
down 7, and then the Pits were going down 12 at midfield.
Yeah,
just like so
it's preposterous. Down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. Wow,
pretty hilarious. Well, after a pretty eventful wildcard weekend, we're on to the division round. I guess we'll get started in the order that we'll be watching the games, just in times that they start. So we'll kick everything off with the early game. The LA Rams at the Green Bay Packers. Theo, you want to get started with this one?
Yeah, so the way this opened up at -7, I think, and I think most people thought you'd get a lot of Green Bay money just based on the fact that this Rams offense, trusting it in this weather situation with Goff's injury, just completely unclear. No Wolford. You'd think a lot of Green money. A lot of Rams money came in earlier this week and put that line to 6.5. As far as handicap goes, I was thinking of some Packers teasers. just based on the fact that it's like the most obvious look on the board. You have a team with Green Bay coming off extra rest, which might mean more than it does in most years, considering they're the only team to get in their side of the bracket. But there are problems with Green Bay. They got offensive line problems. We haven't really seen
Bakhtiari being gone is massive. He's one of the best, if not, like he grades out in PFF as the best left tackle in football. Yeah, and if you don't want to go by PFF, if you want to go by the eye test, he looks like one of the top, 3-5 tackles in football. So that's massive.
Yeah. And it's their toughest matchup by far this season. The way LA's defense matches up with them, they're going to give them issues probably. So if you get anything from that Rams offense, with Akers against a bad run defense, you can see LA maybe keeping in that. Again, I don't see how you can feel good about taking the points with LA this week, just based on the fact that the Corpus Division is such a problem for them. But I do think you're going to hear all week with the Devontae Adams versus Jalen Ramsey. That's going to be the big talking point.
That's going to be
the broadcast will go all over. The rest of those matchups are going to probably mean more for this game, as far as those guys are going to kind of wash throughout. You're going to see these secondary receivers for the Packers versus these good corners outside of Jalen Ramsey for the LA Rams. So it'll be interesting to watch. I don't know. I don't really have a play on this game. I think Green Bay is a tough team to lay points with, just based on the fact they leave a lot of garbage time points on the board with teams, and they do like to score them on their own. So maybe a second half over would be a look, but as far as playing anything pregame, I don't have anything.
Yeah, no, this is a hard one. It's the playoffs. It's obviously hard to handicap. That's, you know what I mean? It's the best teams playing against each other, and not to mention you have not the same home field advantages. All that stuff goes into it. But yeah, this one, just the Packers all season haven't been good in these situations, being favored by about a touchdown. They've either lost or they've let teams keep games close. And the biggest thing Theo was talking about is, we watched it all year, the Packers can't stop the run. Like, the best they did was against Derrick Henry, and they held Derrick Henry to 98 rushing yards. It's not like they stopped him. You know what I mean? They contained him, but it's not like they stopped him. And is Cam Akers, Derrick Henry? No, but the Packers have an issue there. Tony, anything else you wanted to add to Rams Packers?
Well, in that game, the Titans game, what played a big role was the weather, where it snowed a lot. Now, we don't know exactly what it's going to be. It's not supposed to be super windy or anything, but we know Jared Goff, Mr. California himself. In the cold weather, he does not like it.
And he's already messed up the thumb on his throwing head. So, if he's already got a grip issue and it's cold, that's a big deal.
Exactly. We remember that Bears game on the Sunday nighter. We haven't seen a lot of those games, but he's failed in like every one.
Maybe a way to look at this too, if you're looking at a way to bet it, maybe some props with running backs. You could see a lot of maybe some. I don't know if you want to do touch props or yardage props, depending on what those numbers are going to look like. We don't have access to many of them right now. I think it's just like the Cam Akers and Aaron Jones. But if you're looking at maybe some backup backs, if you're looking at some like maybe catches out of the backfield, considering that's probably where the game plans are going to go, maybe that's a look if you're looking to bet that game.
Yeah, that might be the best look.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next game, we got Ravens at the Buffalo Bills, which I'm very excited to watch. I guess I'll kick this one off since I've been, resident Bills fan here. It's -2.5. It's looking like it might get up to 3. I'm interested to see where this one settles. This might be one of the ones I bet this week.
I don't think it's going to hit 3.
I only wanted it at 2.5. I'm just waiting for it to not be 115. I think it'll get closer to 110, maybe 105 if any Ravens money comes in. I got plenty of time to stare at this number. I don't think it's going to move all that much, but I like the Bills here. And I like Josh Allen here. You know what I mean? It's just the way he's been playing. If anything, this is the type of team that can really give the Ravens an issue. Because if the Bills can get up early, right? Like if Josh Allen can get and start fast and put up a couple of touchdowns, that's going to have to make the Ravens try to keep up with them. The only issue, the Bills have had issues just like the Packers stopping the run, right? Like that's where their biggest issue kind of lies, and that's where the Ravens' biggest strength lies. So just in terms of entertainment, this game should be a fun one to watch because the strength of the Ravens, weakness of the Bills, and Josh Allen is just playing at a whole different level right now. So this one's going to be fascinating to watch. I do think it's going to be really close. I could see the Bills winning by a field goal. I'd also look, if you're going to look at like props, definitely rushing props. Lamar Jackson rushing props, if you know what I mean. He might be someone you want to jump on, and J.K. Dobbins 100% is someone I'm going to want to look at Saturday morning. Here, Tony, we'll let you kick this one off. Anything that you see in this Bills-Ravens matchup that you want to take advantage of?
Game, it can kind of go either way, honestly. That's like I would like to take the points in this situation just because it's a very bold move by me to take the points. But the Ravens, they've been rolling for a while, just like the Bills. They've both been rolling, playing really good football. Zach Moss got injured last week, and he's not going to play.
That's massive.
That is he's the guy getting the red zone touches and all that. So we're going to see more TJ Yeldon this week, who's had some moderate success. But I don't know. I would lean the Ravens just because I like their defense. But it all going to come down to Josh Allen be able to make plays down the field. And of course, if he's able to do that and they get a big lead, then we know with Lamar they're not going to come back.
And with that Zach Moss injury, I don't know if you're going to see a bunch of like Yeldon and Singletary. I think you might see mostly Singletary and just more passing. Honestly, just give the ball to Josh Moore and let him cook. Now, one thing that they really need to stop doing are those like read options with Josh Allen, where it's like they don't work very well because their offensive line, I don't think they don't run block the best. So if you've noticed most of these read option plays, there's like 3 dudes in the backfield. So it doesn't matter if Josh Allen gives the ball or keeps the ball, someone's getting stopped for a loss. So they kind of need to stop doing that. Theo, what do you like in this game?
So I've got to really keep an eye on this weather. If we get snow, has Lamar Jackson ever played in snow?
No, he said it. He actually said it. He's never played in snow, and he's hoping he doesn't play in snow.
It's a huge concern. I don't think it's going to snow the way the weather's progressing. I think that's why the total is dropping. You've seen it. I think it opened up over 51, and it's come back to 49.5 today. So I think maybe people are expecting some bad weather. And with this Ravens offense, like, how good are they going to look running the ball in the snow? Like, that could be an issue for Lamar Jackson. It'd be tough to back him in that spot. But again, with Buffalo's defense, they've gotten better as the season's gone on, but still tackling has been an issue. We saw it with the Colts even, like a worse running team, but still a team that likes to run the ball a lot. They were giving up a lot of missed tackles and second chances. So it was just like, I don't really trust this Bills defense still in a situation like this. But if you do have weather, I think that it benefits the Bills a lot more, even though they are more pass heavy.
That's the thing. I want to jump in. When I was talking about the rushing totals, that's if we're not talking about snow, especially with Lamar, who's never played in snow and doesn't want to play in snow. If we're talking about good footing for Lamar and J.K. Dobbins, that's where we're looking at them going over their rushing totals. It depends what the totals are, but that's where you could see them do big damage because of what Theo just said about the Bills' serious issue tackling and who has more moves than Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean? Like J.K. Dobbins is also pretty damn shifty himself. So both of those guys could be someone to look at. So I just wanted to clarify that. If we get snow, though, all bets are off, especially with Lamar. All bets are off. So sorry.
And another thing with Josh Allen is it's even though he's gotten so much better and I've been his biggest supporter coming into the season and through it, he still has a little bit of shithead in him where he just takes these awful sacks where he throws these really
fumble that almost killed them.
Like he does stuff like that, and that's against a team that's going to blitz him a lot, against a team that's going to be after him. Like, he can't have those kind of mistakes, and I don't know if he's done enough this season to show me he's shown enough. Like, he still puts the ball in risky spots, but he hasn't had the same kind of issues he's had in years past. I don't know if this is a matchup that's going to maybe exploit that a little bit more, though.
That's the thing. Like a guy like Marcus Peters specifically who baits quarterbacks. Like, that could be a problem for Josh. This is going to be a fascinating game. It really is because like their corners, the way that the Ravens, the way that some of those guys take risks, like Marlon Humphreys is ridiculous. Like, he just sticks to guys, and I could see him being on digs, but I could see Marcus Peters being sitting in a slot somewhere and baiting Josh into one of those Cole Beasley passes or into a post that he thinks open to John Brown. You know what I mean? Like, where he just sits in his zone and baits you into that pass because he makes it think like he's not, like, he knows where you're going. So he's he's playing it on purpose. He's baiting you. But that Marcus Peters is amazing at that. No matter what you think about Marcus Peters, the person or whatever, Marcus Peters is excellent at that specific thing, playing zone defense and baiting quarterbacks into terrible decisions. So that's going to be very fascinating with Josh.
And I would think you also going to the Bills offense, I would think their game plan is going to be better than Tennessee's. They're not going to get stuck running into their strength and just not adjusting from it. So
they're going to be airing it out. You know what I mean? They're not going to be running Devin Singletary for like 3 yards on first down every single time. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't have a pregame look. Maybe if the Ravens get ahead, the way they can kind of suck clock would be maybe a second half under.
Yeah.
That would be the only, because if you wake up Saturday and there's weather, if there's snow, if there's stuff, like, I don't know how you don't take Buffalo in this situation, but if everything is neutral, I think I would lean the Ravens. That's just how I look at it right now. But it's still nothing like heavy to like bet on right now. Like, I don't see maybe a teaser with the Ravens and the Packers, but again, like,
there's nothing that screams bet me. You know what I mean? There's nothing that really.
It's a really tight game.
These lines are very, very tough. Very tough. There's only one I think you have advantage on. The rest of these are just like, you might as well flip a coin and hope you know.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, actually, I guess we'll get right into that since that's not the primetime game. I'm assuming this is the line you think that people have an in on. We will move on to Browns at Chiefs on Sunday. It's -10. I'm just going off faith, and I'm assuming that that's the one that Theo was talking about. So, Theo, I'll throw this to you to either make me look like an idiot or, beauty. Called it. Jedi mind tricks. Look at that.
It's the first thing I saw. It's the only thing I saw on the board on Sunday night when these lines fully opened and was just kind of confused about. Again, I know the Chiefs in the playoffs, everyone's kind of assuming we're going to see them come out of the bye.
Just going to turn it on.
So, and that could happen. Like, they could come out, offensively dominate, whatever. You're basically saying with this that Baltimore, that Cleveland has the same chance we saw with the Panthers when they played Kansas City. Atlanta 2 weeks ago, what are they, 10.5? 11?
Atlanta, I think, got to 11.
So I just don't see where the line for this, why it should be where it is. I think Cleveland matches up very well with them. They can run the ball very well. They are getting their coaches back. They're getting their offensive lineman back. I think they're gonna be in this game early, and you're getting 2 weeks off for Kansas City. Like, you're gonna have to expect some kind of rust, I would think. They didn't play week 17. They didn't play last week, and with the way Kansas City's been playing these games, I'm not just going to assume they come out and dominate. Again, it's a possibility because of how talented they are, but I think Cleveland does enough where they play defensively to. In the red zone, they're going to be a little tougher. I think that Kansas City will be able to drive like they've been all year, but in the red zone, I've seen nothing that they've shown that's been great so far. And I think early on they might have issues. And if you're holding a Baltimore or a Cleveland +10, some live Kansas City looks for a middle. Like, if you get the 7-0 Cleveland lead, if they're up 14-7 and Kansas City struggling, you might get some looks to try to middle it with a Cleveland live bet. So I put the +10 with the Browns in my back pocket for now, and I will be looking on Sunday to grab a live Chiefs line and try to middle that because, again, this isn't a Cleveland confidence play, and most people who are betting Cleveland, it's more of a fade on Kansas City at this number with the way they haven't been covering anything. But I think that if you're holding a Cleveland at 10 and over, you can get a Kansas City number that's, hopefully below 7 in the middle of that game and look for a nice middle.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree there. Like, the Chiefs defense hasn't been good. Like, it's just, it hasn't been good all season. It's had flashes, but it's been consistently bad. That's just been a thing.
And last year, weren't they kind of ramping up at the end of last year with their defense was getting better as the playoffs got on?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're right. They were looking like Super Bowl teams tend to look, like it was all coming together at the right time and they were hitting their stride. The only terrifying thing about this is just, like, I've said this the entire season. Until you beat Patrick Mahomes, I don't care how many points he's down. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, if Patrick Mahomes down 14 points with 45 seconds left, I seriously think with that offense and their speed and the fact that they can score in one play, that's not even a safe margin. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean don't bet Cleveland plus 10. You know what I mean? Essentially what I'm telling you is it's probably a good play because they will probably get down, and then Patrick Mahomes, like we've seen a million times, will turn it on and go to that next level where he's just unstoppable and he's hitting everyone all over the field, and they come back and win the game. You know what I mean? So the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of talking myself into taking Cleveland plus 10 here.
Well, the Browns offense, they're not just a running team. They've been able to throw the ball very well the last few weeks. But the big injury that's happened here is with Mitchell Schwartz, who is not going to play on Sunday. And he's the guy who's supposed to block Myles Garrett, who's the biggest difference maker on defense, really, on either team. So if he's getting after Mahomes all game, that's just going to make it that much more difficult. As much as you could slow the Chiefs down, that gives them a much better chance.
So I know you've taken this already. We talked about it earlier. Are you looking for a Kansas City middle, or are you going to just hold the Cleveland ticket?
Well, I'd like to. That's what I did last year. I took Texans plus 10 in the divisional round last year. And then in the middle of the game, I took the Chiefs as everything was turning. But I lost that one, but I got that one. So it wasn't a complete loss. Maybe that'll happen this week too.
That's what I'm thinking. And I think like with Kansas City, it's just tough to lay any playoff team, double digits, no matter what the rest advantage is, especially with a team that does not cover spreads. And again, Kansas City could just come out and turn around, and I could look like an idiot. They come out 21-0, and this bet's dead.
Yeah. Andy Reid after a bye, you know what I mean? Yeah, we could get all the mojo, and maybe they flip the switch. Maybe they are that good. I've been terrified of them the entire season, just saying that they are that good. So maybe it's possible.
But yeah, and you see where this
it just hasn't looked. It hasn't looked like that all season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's possible. It just doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, and I think like they are gonna just go up and down the field. I just think in the red zone, that's where Cleveland has to focus on. Just don't let them score touchdowns. That's all you got to do, and you're gonna stay in this game at least in the beginning, and then hopefully offensively. I think offensively they're gonna have a lot of success. The over is kind of out of play because I think it's at 57 right now.
Let's take a look real quick.
For good reason, it's the highest total on the board. But
oh god, yeah.
I would take Cleveland and then look for since Kansas City money, and the only way that doesn't present itself is if you get an early Kansas City comes out with their hair on fire and just puts points on them. But I think it's more likely that Cleveland stays in this game early, and you can find some live bet with Kansas City and try to get that nice middle.
The only time all season that Kansas City did that where they came out like a house on fire was against the Jets.
Even then, weren't they kind of? When did they like blow them out right away, or was it like kind of close?
Actually,
I don't remember the game.
You might be right there. I might misremember that. No, they were up really.
They blew them
Maybe out, it wasn't the first quarter, but by like the end of the half, they were up by like 20 points. You know what I mean? It might have been one of those where it was a slow first quarter and then they just exploded. Yeah. Anything else?
They were actually up 14-3 in the first quarter. So
okay. So they did boat race them. Yeah. Anything else on that game before we move on to the primetime game?
There's a lot of bulletin board material for the Browns. All these people are saying they're not going to win. All of this. Sammy Watkins even said it. He said something like, "It's going to be easy." I don't remember what it was, but Odell said, "Don't be surprised." So you can always trust him.
Isn't he like not even with the team?
I don't know where he is.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
For now,
yeah.
Moving on to the final game of the divisional round, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Right now, it's -3 for the Saints at -115, +3 for the Bucs at -105. Theo, kick us off. What are you feeling in this one?
Again, we were going to see Brady versus Breeze at third time, which is pretty interesting. The one thing I want to say off the bat, all week you're going to hear it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's actually
because it is.
It's actually not. If you look at the numbers, 60%. They hit over a 60% clip. They beat a team the third time. When a team wins the first times, it's like over 60%. They win the third time. That's the most bullshit narrative, and people have it doesn't even happen that often for it to be like a big trend. But for some reason, it's just become such a thing people say. So that's right away. If that's your angle, I don't think it's a bettable angle as far as.
But can you beat Tom Brady 3 times in one season? That's the real question.
Wait, hold on. Didn't Drew Brees do that? Like, wasn't there a bunch of these stats that happened? Oh no, it was twice. It had never happened twice, and all of these numbers we're talking about, like it can't happen 3 times. Literally, were numbers that we went into the second game with these two teams be like, oh, it had never happened before. Tom Brady had never had this happen before. And it's like, yeah, no shit, Tom Brady had never had this fucking happen before. He played with the Bills, the hapless Dolphins, and the Jets in his division. No wonder this never happened before. Like, now he's in a division with teams that are actually good. And we were talking before this. I think Drew Brees is done.
Yeah.
So those stats, and Theo's on this all the time, those stats don't matter. When you start talking about those ridiculous
trends,
historical stats that don't actually, that are from like 20
times.
years ago. Yeah, like when we're talking about really obscure numbers like that, like you can't really take that into consideration.
This is the toughest game I've had to even like find anything bad about it. Like the other games we've had like some props looks, some live looks. This one is just like, unless the Saints get under 3, I might take the Saints. At 4, I think, like I was looking at the Bucs, but I don't trust the defense still. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I was expecting a better performance from both of those teams. I think a lot of that was they both knew they were going to win, and they kind of just were, okay, we're going to play, next week we're playing the Saints, we're playing the team we've already, we don't want to show them too much, but I don't know what, like, to attack with this game. Like unless the number moves under 3, over 3. Like, if it's over 3, even then, like, maybe Tampa's a look, because it's just such a close game that I think that matters a lot.
Yeah, this is... The Bucs got boat raced so bad in the first 2 games. Like, they got off to such bad starts, got so far behind, and then and then Tom had like big numbers at the end of both games. You know what I mean? Big passing numbers, big touchdowns, but a couple of turnovers, a pick 6. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to get a handle on this because these games were completely out of hand before halftime.
And you've seen like this Tampa offense kind of get more comfortable with each other. And
that was the thing. They played them early.
And they turned it over. Shit. Yeah, they didn't turn the ball over. They
the
might
first
have
one was game 1, right? Like, there was game 1 of Brady in this offense. And it's just, yeah. There's a lot of issues with this. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of issues with this of, like, going based on what we saw in the regular season, just as these teams progressed.
And that Saints defense has gotten a lot better, too. Like, I just said, the Bucs defense, the Bucs offense has gotten better. The Saints defense has also improved. So, is there anything you guys see sort of bettable in this?
Not like, I don't know, to be honest with you. Not really, just because like the Saints are probably going to bring a lot of pressure because that's what they did the first couple of times against Brady, and they had a lot of success with it. And that's when they weren't good at it early in the season, and they've gotten a lot better at it. They've gotten a lot more sacks of late. You know what I mean? They've brought more pressure of late. That's not a great recipe for Brady, but at the same time, like, there's what are we betting on? Sack totals? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to really pin something down for this game that, like, I'm like, I feel strongly about this.
Maybe some like Brady under yard. I don't know. Like,
maybe honestly, maybe the over. Like, just because maybe if it's a close game, he's gonna throw.
Tampa always has slow starts.
They always start off bad in the first quarter, so you can look at
maybe a live Tampa if you get like a nice.
They go down.
That's probably the play, eh? Like you see a 10 thing. That would probably be the look of.
That's If it gets lopsided right off the hop, one of these teams gets off to a hot start, maybe a live bet. But it's really hard to peg something with this. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's tougher if New Orleans is in front. Actually, when you think about it, like Tampa's not very good at like Fournette. They give the ball away too much. Like they don't run it as well as New Orleans. You think like if they get ahead, it's going to be tougher for Tampa to get back in it than if it's vice versa. Do you think?
Yeah, because Tampa's going to keep throwing because Bruce Arians keeps throwing the football.
And when they run, they're not
you know what I mean? That's the thing.
Like,
and they're good, and it's going to keep happening. And it's good, and it's not short passes either. Like, he's going to keep going deep. It doesn't matter what the score is. That, like, Bruce Arians has one mode. You know what I mean? And it's go. It's try to score as many points as possible. It's go vertical. That's what he does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and if the Saints know that's coming and are just playing that, and they're bringing a lot of pressure and they got a lot of off coverage to take so they don't get beat deep. Like, that's the thing. If they get up early, Tampa could have a lot of problems because there's not something that they can like switch to. You know what I mean? Because that's what they do.
Yeah. I'd think about a Fournette under. Now that I think about it,
honestly, he just might not get the carries, which might be no. That's why that might be the play.
He had a big game last week, so maybe that inflates his number a touch.
Yeah, and the Saints have a good run defense. Like they genuinely have a good run defense,
best,
right? Like their issue has been on the corners and their guys getting burnt. Like that's been the issue at times. It hasn't been them stopping the run. So depending on what Fournette's rushing total is. That might be the only thing that I would like. I'd have to see the number. And again,
they only have Kamara.
Prop bets are. I was going to say prop bets are hard because we don't get these numbers, especially Sunday numbers, a lot of times until Saturday, and sometimes not even until Sunday morning. Like when I say Sunday morning, I mean like when I'm awake at like 4 a.m.
In the playoffs, they get up early. Like I see a few now, like with receptions, and it's just.
I'm
like
talking though about like because they'll give you the big guys, exactly. Like they'll give you Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Tom Brady, guys that everyone bets on. It might be a little bit different for Leonard Fournette, even though I know he's their running back, right? Like it might be a little bit different just because of the other names involved.
Seeing one, I like Brady over 38.5 as the longest completion.
Yes.
Oh yeah, because that's the Saints have issues with the big pass. We just talked about that. I could see that happening. You said, hell, Scotty Miller.
Yeah, he did that last
right.
time.
Like you can see it happening. It's happened against and especially if it's garbage time and you know what I mean. The Saints don't really care.
Also, we were just talking about like you think that like maybe Tampa throws more because that's where they can expose the Saints. Guess what Brady's pass total number is right now? Pass attempts. 40.5. 40.5.
Yeah. See,
so it's like
they know he's going to chuck it because that's what Bruce Arians does.
Yeah.
He chucks it.
Maybe a Fournette, and then I think if Tampa gets to a lead, I think better if Tampa gets to a lead, maybe a live New Orleans.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything else that you guys wanted to get to?
No, it's pretty light week. I think up until the Super Bowl, when you get all the fun props and everything, a lot of this is just very, very tight and
exactly.
Find like live plays when you can. Like live plays are gonna be big, especially this week, and look for those when you can. And the only pregame side with the numbers off, I think, is Cleveland. The rest of these are pretty tight.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you got to get lucky with live bets because Vegas has had so many weeks of just ability to cap, right? To handicap these things and to get to the point where they just know what these teams are and they put these numbers down for a reason. And the reason you're getting this huge Chiefs number, even though we don't think it's going to happen, is because people are going to still bet it because it's the Chiefs, right? Like this is the way it is.
They're worried about teasers too. They don't want to open if it's 8.5. You're going to get a bunch of Chiefs teasers in.
I was just exactly right. All the numbers, like you take advantage of them more than any of us, right? Like taking advantage of numbers like that. But this has been it for the divisional round of the Toronto on Tilt football podcast. I'm Steve Artabello with Anthony Harris and Theo Giordano. You can find us at our website, Toronto on Tilt. You can find on Twitter at Toronto on Tilt. You can find the video on YouTube, Toronto on Tilt, and of course on all the streaming services, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, Bleaker, all of the things. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. And until next week, see y'all later.